Just give me a second, please, to remove some space. Okay, so we completed purchasing basic setups. We completed required basic setups for purchasing. Before we start with the purchasing related transaction process, let's talk about role customization. How to customize the roles. This concept is very generic and common for any application related roles. When you're dealing with inventory related roles, purchasing or order management, take any other application. So it's a very generic how we have to deal with the roles. We'll talk about it. So the concept is role customization. So first we'll review the roles. That means we'll see what are the roles we have and the relevant information. After that, we'll see how we can compare the roles. And we'll go through the process called as, say, simulate roles. We'll see what we can do with this option. And we'll see the process of how to copy the seeded role. Copy seeded role and modify. How to copy the seeded role and how we can edit, how we can modify as per our requirement. Maybe we may add some additional privileges or you may just remove as per your requirement. And finally we'll see how to create the roles from the scratch. How to create roles. So we'll just go through these areas of understanding. So when you talk about EBS, in EBS we have a concept called as menu and submenu. Menu, submenu. Within the submenu you can have a privileges. Okay, privileges. Menu, submenu, privileges. When I talk about fusion, we discussed about roles. What are the different type of roles we have? But here, when you talk about the role, ideally we can have job role. Within the job role, you can find duty role. Duty role will have a privileges. But ideally, in case of EBS, this instead of calling as privileges, we call as functions, right? So this is a naming convention we use. In EBS, so we have a menu. Within the menu, you can have one or multiple submenus. Within the submenus, you may have further child submenus, or else directly you can find the functions. In case of EBS, job roles. Job role consists of duty roles. Duty role will have a set of privileges, or else one duty role can have another duty role within that. Okay, this is how we have, right? Now in EBS, if user need access to specific submenu, what we do? Directly we cannot assign this submenu for responsibility creation. When you create the responsibility in EBS, if you are not aware of EBS, you can ignore these points. Okay, but just I'm trying to compare so that this information will be very useful for the guys who are coming from EBS background. So in case of EBS, we cannot assign at the time of responsibility creation, you cannot select submenu into responsibility. If you want to select any submenu, if you want to give the access to specific responsibility to particular submenu, you have to create menu again. Within the menu, we have to include the submenu. That's how you can associate specific submenu responsibility. That means in EBS, only menus only you can select at the time of responsibility creation. If you want to select any submenu, against the submenu you have to create the menu that only you can associate. The same logic is applicable in the Fusion also. If you have a user, if you have a user, you cannot assign duty role to the user. Only you can assign the job roles. However, you can assign the menus to responsibility in EBS. Here only job roles you can assign. Even if you want to give the access to specific user for few privileges, what you have to do is you have to create the job role. Before you create job role, ideally we create the, by grouping the privileges, we create the duty role. The duty role, one or multiple duty roles, will just group with the help of job role. Job role is the one which we assign to the user. So this is how just we have to manage with the custom roles when you're dealing in the Fusion applications. Just to understand this point or to get some clarity on this point, any questions from anyone, please? Okay. So in EBS, what we do, we assign the menu, right? We assign the menu to responsibility. In case of Fusion, we assign job role. We cannot assign the duty role or privileges directly. If you want to assign any privileges or duty roles to users, that you can do with the help of job role only. Any questions here to understand, please? EBS. Fine. So now first we'll go to review the roles. Okay, where we can find out specific offering or area specific roles. Okay, go to security console. Navigate to security console. Just 1 second, it is connecting. Now you can go to administration. Just click on administration, else that point will see. Let's go to analytics. Just click on analytics. Okay, if you just go to analytics, here you can find the complete information, how many roles we have. Okay, again the roles belongs to which area or which offering, that classification you could see here. Okay, if you go to within the security console, if you select analytics, here you can find the complete information, what are the different roles, and again the roles are classified based on the offering also. So just scroll little down here, you could see the classification for procurement. Yep. So here you can find out the roles related to procurement. When I talk about procurement, not only just for purchasing, so within the procurement, like along with the purchasing, so supplier portal and procurement contracts, supplier qualification, what are the different applications we have for all those applications? How many roles we have, you can see. As a part of procurement, we have a duty roles. Duty roles we have around 85, and for procurement we have a job roles. Those are 31. Okay, when you talk about these numbers, this number talks about all the roles which are available within the instance, including the custom roles. Including the custom roles. So if you want to see what are those 31 job roles we have for procurement, just click on that. Just select that section. It will display all the roles below. Okay, just select procurement job roles and scroll little down. You could see all those roles here. Okay, they are the different roles. So what are the basic roles we require to work on purchasing? Already we assigned the roles to our current user. You could see those roles also. Procurement manager. Okay, so this is a place from where you can find out specific offering related roles. The same way if you want to see the duty roles, select procurement duty roles.
Lakman, one job role, how can be there is two different role codes?
Okay, when Oracle is providing as a seeded role, for few roles they are providing two copies of role with a different role code. But when we are creating, we can create only one at a time. Just we can create only one. But here, as a part of seeded roles, they are providing like that. And there is some small difference also when you are dealing with that. If any role is starting with ORA, okay, say Oracle is providing for everything two codes. Role name is same, but code is different. Okay, let's go to this job roles. Okay, these are job roles. So you take example of buyer. Okay, somebody just modified as a copy, or else will go to some other role. Some changes are done by someone here. We'll go to some role which already we have seen as a part of our setups. Yes. So we have a role called as procurement manager. So same role we have twice, but if you notice here you can find some difference. It is starting with the PO procurement manager job. Another role code is the prefix is ORA PO procurement manager. Reality, this ORA PO procurement manager, this role is part of this role, and there is some slight difference when you are dealing. The permissions wise will have everything. This which role starts with ORA role is always part of this role. Both are procurement manager. Codes are different. Within the code, whatever, if you see prefix is ORA, that is part of the other role only. The slight difference when you are dealing with the role, if you want to deal with ORA role, you cannot modify this seeded role. Okay, you cannot modify all the within that role. What are the different privileges we have, we cannot modify. But reality, we don't modify the seeded role. It could start with directly application name as a PO, or else it may start with ORE as a prefix. So we don't customize, we don't modify the seeded one. From any role you want to create the new role, any modifications you want to do, you'll make a copy and do accordingly you can just do the customization of the role. But for few, it's not applicable for all the roles also. For very few roles, Oracle providing the two copies with a different role codes. But what is the difference between this ORA role what role code starts with ORA as a prefix? Those are part of other role. That is how Oracle giving. For few roles they are not giving the two copies, single copy only they are providing. Okay, so
Okay.
that is only the point to understand.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Thanks.
So Lakshman, the role starting with the ORA, that only we can modify, right? That is modifiable.
No, no, no. That is for that only Oracle is putting some restrictions if you compare with this role. Okay. So
And is there any particular reason, like, why Oracle is providing these two different, like, the same kind of role with two different codes
no,
for particular roles?
no, no, simple. For few roles, they are not providing two codes also. I don't find great reason. Okay, so these two roles will provide the same privileges. If you want to modify any one of the role, you can copy and do. You can start modifying as per a requirement. Okay. So that is a point. Maybe some upgrade point of view, some other aspect, they might have some point to be considered to maintain the codes and all. If that is true, again, that is not applicable for all the roles which they are provided. I don't see like two roles for all, two copies for all the roles with a different role code. Okay. So let's try to understand. So this is the procurement manager is a role code, a role name. You can assign that role with any one of the code. Doesn't makes any difference. If you want to modify, copy and modify. If you want to use as it is, use it. That's it. Okay, fine. So that's what we have to understand when we are dealing with these roles. When I talk about duty roles, here we have a many duty roles. The duty role or job role, the number which you could see, that is including custom roles also. Copied roles, custom roles, everything it will show. Since this is a vision instance, you could see some custom roles. When you're dealing with a fresh instance, we don't find any some copied and all. So until unless we do it. Okay. So these are the different duty roles we have. Could see for each and everything. So what is the purpose and all. So this is one of the duty role, purchase order controls. If you assign this role to any user through job role, what we can do, perform purchase order control task including closing the purchase orders, finally closed, freezed, or placing the hold. All these privileges you can give it to the user with the help of this duty role. Okay.
So
Then
can we download this list, let's say? If I say as for supply chain role, I want to download the whole list. Can I do that?
from here you cannot do. You can take, you can find this role from the other page. From there you can do it as a part of customization or modification or copy. There we have option. I'll show you. We can export. We can export into spreadsheet all these privileges. Okay, you can export. And other point is when you're dealing with these roles, if you try to copy one role, so system has to take what name, which name system has to take, that you can set. Go to administration part. Within the administration, go to roles. Here we have suffix. Whenever you copy one role, say purchasing manager role you are copying. When you are copying, what name system has to take for the copy definition? It will take purchasing manager, and suffix it will take as ERP or anything. Just whatever you enter, that name it will take. Here again, this suffix is for code. This is for role name. This is for role code. So role name and role code. This also you can keep it as ERP. So here you can specify so how you want to maintain unique naming convention for the copied roles. We'll see that point also. This is just here we given suffix as a ERP, the same system will take. Okay, so this is just first point, how to review the roles, what are the roles we have and where we can find out. Now let's talk about how to compare the roles. Go to this role section. If you want to compare any roles, go to compare roles. Here we have a tab called as compare roles. Here you have to, if you want to compare the roles, minimum you should select 2 roles. Even max also you can select 2 only. For comparison we need more than 1, right? So which 2 roles you want to compare? Which role you want to compare with another role? To test this, you may go with this purchasing related roles, or else already we use a few roles within the inventory application also. So you can go with any roles. Let's compare these 2 roles. Purchasing manager will compare with the procurement manager will compare with the procurement preparer. So select one role here, first role. Procurement manager. Yeah. Select procurement manager. The procurement manager role we want to compare with which role? Procurement preparer. So that we can understand, so what is the difference between these 2 roles in terms of privileges, and which role has more privileges, which role has very less privileges, which role what are the common privileges for these 2 roles, everything we can understand. So select the role called as procurement preparer. Procurement preparer. Fine, then click on compare. Here when you are comparing, which option is selected by default, you just look at this. Show all in the sense, from these 2 roles what are the privileges we have, system will list out, and it specifies that privilege is available part of which role, and from which role it is not available. So we selected all. So it is listing out all the privileges which are part of these 2 roles. We got a big list here. So many. If you talk about this, these are the privileges. Here what you could see, okay, these are the privileges. So artifact name and all they are giving title, but actually this is a privilege. So one of the privilege is cancel purchase order. So this privilege is available from which role? Cancel purchase order. If you have access to procurement manager, you will be able to cancel the purchase order. but the person who has access to procurement preparer role, the person cannot cancel it. Okay, the same way cancel purchase agreement. Procurement manager can do it, but procurement preparer cannot do it. The same way you can just verify all the listed privileges which your role has access to perform that action which role doesn't have. So close purchase order. Procurement manager can do it, procurement preparer cannot do it. So you just go to this is how you can find out the different privileges which are available from the two roles. Again, that privilege you have as a part of which role, that complete information you can see here. Now most of the privileges we have for procurement manager. So procurement preparer has very less privileges. You could see most of the privileges are not given to this procurement preparer. Scroll down. So now it's very difficult to find out, just scrolling and verifying and all. Even if you want to fetch this information to spreadsheet, you can fetch. Okay, here you could see few activities, few tasks, or say few privileges. We have a privilege called as manage requisitions. Who can create the requisitions? Manage requisitions means finding the requisitions, creating the new requisitions, importing the requisitions. There will be a number of tasks as a part of manage requisitions. Okay, so here manage requisitions cannot be performed by procurement agent. Procurement agent doesn't have access to requisitions, but the procurement preparer has access to manage requisitions. The same way you could say some other privileges also. So these are all the privileges. These are all privileges only. Procurement preparer role has, same time procurement manager role doesn't have access. There are few privileges which are available from the two roles. Item inquiry, procurement manager has access. The same time procurement preparer also has access. It's very difficult to understand which role has access to which privileges exactly, what are the common, what are the distinct through manual process. So for that what you can do is here you have options to easily filter and to understand. So now what you can do is you want to understand out of these two roles what privileges only procurement manager has. You can select only in the first role. So here all the listed privileges are available only for procurement manager, not at all for procurement preparer. So this is all. And if you want to understand the second role, procurement preparer has access to which privileges the same time where procurement manager doesn't have access. Select only in the second role. So these all privileges what you see here, these are part of only procurement preparer, not at all. Those would be available by default within the procurement manager. All privileges are available only in the procurement preparer. Now, if you want to understand what are the common privileges from the two roles, say select this radio option in both roles. So this is a list which talks about these two roles has access to these privileges. What privileges? View purchase orders. If you want to allow some user to view the purchase orders, that is a possible who has access to procurement manager as well as procurement preparer. The same way here we have many, you can just check one by one, scroll and you can see. And if you want to export this information to Excel to analyze and to plan your custom role definition, yes, you can do it. So export to Excel. It will fetch all the privileges with the specification of role where we have that which role has, which role doesn't have access. Accordingly, you can plan which role you have to copy and you have to modify, you have to add some additional privileges. All you can plan. Okay, these all are the privileges. So maybe just you can analyze all these and put the filters. Maybe just you want to know this procurement manager doesn't have access to which privileges that you want to know. This is how you can filter for all these doesn't have. So for which area, so procurement manager need access to manage requisitions also, but by default not available. So in that case, you may just copy the procurement manager. So you may include this privilege into the procurement manager role that you may assign to the user. So that's how you can just make a plan. You can analyze and you can just make a plan. Here also, so out of all these privileges, this procurement preparer doesn't have access to which privileges you can list out. So for all these, procurement preparer doesn't have access. Mostly purchase or related information, documents. Okay, cancel purchase agreement, cancel purchase orders. Okay, change purchase agreement and all these purchasing document. Okay, so requisitions access majorly just available from the procurement preparer and primarily like purchasing related. So few requisition and other privileges are available from procurement manager. Like when you are dealing with the client, when you have to create the many, when you want to provision the access to the users, we'll take the requirement, which user required access to which functionality. Accordingly, we'll prepare the custom menus in EBS. The same logic we have to apply to create the custom roles in the Fusion application. Okay, that's how you can just compare. And one more point here, sorry.